key task for any head teacher is the appointment of a deputy. In this film, we've gathered together an expert panel of former head teachers to pass on their top interview techniques for selecting the right candidate. First, let's meet the team. Alan Key, now retired, has 36 years' experience in education, with 15 as a head teacher. Peter Lawrence is Development Director at a trust of 8 schools. He has over 30 years' experience in education, 13 of them as a head teacher. Colin Richardson, also retired, has a total of 41 years' experience in education, with 16 spent as a head. The panel has received an email from new head teacher Sally.
I'm about to conduct an interview for a new deputy head. The interview is with an external candidate that has not previously worked in the school. How can I make sure my number 2 will support me in my vision for the school? And have you got any advice for the interview to help me make sure I make the right decision?
That's the key appointment, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have to be very clear about where you're going and the kind of personal qualities you want and the skills you want to move the school forward.
How am I going to know this person's going to share my vision? State it explicitly as a starting point as to what your vision is for the school currently and in the future.
We're appointing somebody whose job after this one is going to be a head. So are you looking for future prospects as well, aren't you? Not just the current role.
The last thing a candidate wants is to be stuck in a school as the deputy head for the rest of their career, so you have to make it clear there are opportunities there for them to gain experience and to move on.
The panel's first piece of advice is to focus on personal qualities and pick a candidate you could mould for headship.
But the heart of it has got to be whether the person who Sally eventually, or the governors select, can work with Sally in such a way you can't put a cigarette paper between them in terms of their values.
How they work now in their current role will be how they work when they become a deputy head, and if that working pattern doesn't fit with you as a head, then you shouldn't be appointing them. So it's very important to understand how they come to decisions, how they work operationally, to ensure that you can work well together. Although we were heads, we always made some bad decisions, and you need someone to either point that out to you. You need someone with a fair bit of courage to stand up and say, I'm sorry, but I think you're wrong.
The panel's second tip is to look for shared values and find a candidate who will support and challenge you.
I think they need to be exposed during the interview process over whatever timescale you set this up to. As many different audiences as you can actually manage to organise in the time that's available, because you do need to get different perspectives, governors, students, parents and so on, and that's very important that you give a deal of thought and take advice.
For a senior post like this, you'd look at quite a well-planned assessment centre approach, wouldn't you, with different either scenarios, intra-exercises, group observations, see how they relate to other people.
The panel's third piece of advice is to undertake varied assessments with different audiences to inform the final decision.
With an external candidate, there's always that extra element of risk, isn't there? So even more important to make sure that the selection process minimises that risk as far as possible.
But you can also get the benefits, can't you, of experience in other schools and in other contexts, rather than just from within your own school. So if you can get the right person with a background in another school of a different type, if they perform particularly well, but obviously will adapt to the vision and ethos of your particular school, then that can be a major asset as well.
The panel's final tip is not to be afraid of appointing an external candidate.
So how would we summarise our advice to Sally?
If she's not 100% happy, not to appoint, but also to look at this as a golden opportunity, because it is a golden opportunity. If you can make the right appointment, get the right person in as your deputy, that's going to be the biggest asset that you have in your headship, without doubt.